everyone, and welcome back to Spooky Japan podcast. Today, we are joined with Arno. He is from Phoenix Paranormal in South Africa, which I know nothing about anything paranormal in South Africa. So hopefully, he can educate us. We can educate him on some things, and it should be a good time. We're excited to have him. He's running on juice right now, guys, because it's past midnight there. So bear with
Hey
him. But we
guys,
are
hey Amanda, hi Irene. Nice to meet you guys finally. I mean,
yes.
I've seen your posts. I mean, with via Terry, we've met and everything, and it's amazing to reach out all the way across the globe to someone else, to fellow paranormal investigators.
Yes, we're excited to talk to different people from different places. Definitely South Africa is a new one for us.
Hmm.
How was we were talking
it,
before this?
it's ironic because that's the thing. I mean, for me in my bubble, us in our bubble, I mean, we know South Africa. We really hear about people from, for example, Japan or from the US. Yes, you get all these shows, you get all these podcasts, but it's normal for us. So it's amazing.
Yeah, we were talking before we went live how it's not really talked about here in Japan. So it's
Yeah,
always interesting to hear about different countries, their point of view on paranormal.
and learn from it and find out what similarities we have with each other and what differences that we have with each other. It's very important.
No, it's definitely because of the one thing we mentioned earlier as well is, and I mean that's one thing I want to get to is the similarities between. I mean, a shadow person is a shadow person is a shadow person. A demon is a demon is a demon. Every
Mhm.
single
Yeah.
culture, religion, like I mentioned before. I mean, we've got 11 different official languages in South Africa and
Hmm.
different cultures. It's this complete melting pot of different cultures and different beings, and there are similarities. I mean,
Hmm.
even if you take across religion, I mean, a demon is a form of a demon, is a form of a demon, is a form of a demon. Uh, Spirit is a spirit, is a spirit, is a spirit. There's different names and different referrals to it, but it's all the exact same. So it's amazing to, I think, share those ideas around it.
In South Africa, are there spirits like what I'm really trying to get at? The ones that I've dealt with in America are very mellow compared to the spirits in Japan.
Mm.
Are the spirits like gonna come after you, or are they mellow, or are they understandable, or do they want to communicate with you in a certain way?
It's difficult for me to say personally. I mean, I understand you're clairvoyant and all of that. For us as a group, we've got a couple of people that are more sensitive to the paranormal, if I can put it like that. But mostly we try to base everything off physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even after saying that, I must admit, after a couple of investigations, these things happen at my house. I mean, for someone that can't see, I can't hear them, I can't see them, I can't feel them. I have heard them, I have seen them, I have
Mm-hmm.
felt them, even after investigation at my house. So,
Mm-hmm.
for something like that to happen on that level, I don't even want to know how bad it must be on a more spiritual level, if I can put it like that. But we do. I mean, we've got everything from Boer War. Angry spirits. I mean, vengeful spirits, if I can put it like that, where people have been murdered, right through to uh, amazing experience with one of our own investigators, where she had her father on the EVP recording. She asked her father because her father passed away from cancer in a
Mm-hmm.
short span of time, and she asked her dad, "Are you with us?" And we got a response on EVP in her dad's voice saying, "Every single day."
Mm-hmm.
So that's more of a perfect example of a. So it's I think it's a melting point. It's a melting pot. It's something of everything.
Because the spirits on Amanda's side are like there was tragedy on her side. It was sad, but they're more. You have to understand what they went through, and on this
Mm.
side, you have the more like I'm gonna get you kind of thing. So um, you really don't want to interact with them. You say, okay, fine, bye, take a number, see ya. You know, that's the way that that's the way that I deal with it a lot. And yeah, you just okay, bye
Must
bye.
admit, something is uh, a demonic entity. I know a lot of people, and it's typical Hollywood culture, taking this one thing and blowing it completely out of proportions. I've been
Yeah.
doing this for close to 20 years. I've been involved in the paranormal, and I've only encountered something that I can truly say was demonic
Mhm.
once,
Mhm.
and I can't even confirm that.
Yeah.
That was the closest thing I've experienced to a demonic entity, and I've only encountered it once. So it's
Yeah.
not something that I think is so full on. Not every single spirit is a demonic spirit. It's not
No.
that biblical
No.
sense of
No.
demonic.
No. No. It isn't because I do residentials mostly. Okay. And yeah, there's I didn't even come across one at all that was demonic. I think it was just dark entities, right? And
Mm,
who did something bad when they were living, so they become a nasty, you know what, when they did when they did, right? So
mm.
it's nowhere near close to being demonic, and you're saying, okay, he's a nasty jerk. Okay, gotta get rid of him. Bye, you know. And I mean, it's not. I don't even remember if I even saw one demonic spirit at all. In all the houses that I did, nope, just entities and just
Mm.
spirits that need to be crossed over, spirits that need to leave. So it's.
One thing I wanted to ask specifically. I mean, you mentioned now specifically. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You're in Arino in Tokyo, and Amanda,
Mm-hmm.
you're in
I'm
Nagasaki.
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 If we take an event, and I mean, I do not know the entire history of Japan, only from tons of documentaries, but I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
one most famous one of Hiroshima, where the atomic bomb was dropped.
Yeah.
If you think
That is
at
about
all those lives,
yeah. That's why
what's that
it's
about?
that's why spirits here are different for me down here than up in Tokyo because she has a lot of the Irene says the suicide ones down here because I'm in Nagasaki. We have the Hiroshima bombing 4 or 5 hours north of me. 2 hours away from me is the Nagasaki bombing. So we have all those tragic souls down here from that, but we also have reported a lot of more cryptid creatures here, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's because they started appearing after the bombing. So we don't have in America. We there's like Bigfoot hunters out there who want to go out there and research them. We don't have anything like that here. It's mostly just me and Irene here.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we don't have anyone wanting to go out there and find Bigfoot or any other cryptids that we have. So scientists came out and they're like, the best the best thing we're gonna say is it may or may not be a person or an animal got into the radiation and mixed with them,
Mm.
got in their DNA or whatever, and it altered their appearance to look like what we assumed was the cryptid.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing thing for me. I'm so happy you mentioned that. I mean, people always think of if we talk about the paranormal. These days, I'm trying to actually re-educate people here in SA, saying not necessarily the paranormal, but more supernatural,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
where it's a combination of cryptozoology. It's a combination of cryptozoology, culture, and spiritual realm, and
Yeah.
even UFOs. You'll see my lovely UFO alien right there at the back. But I mean, something like cryptozoology, like you mentioned about Bigfoot. Yes, US started with Bigfoot. I think that's the most popular reoccurrence of Bigfoot. Then you've got the Yeti, that's similar in all of that. In South Africa, we've got something that's similar called the Groot Aap, which is literally, again, like I mentioned earlier, different cultures, same type of vibe. Demon is
Mm-hmm.
demon is demon. You've
Mm-hmm.
got this appearance of a great ape in US, in South America, in Europe, even um, in Japan as well. I mean, like you mentioned, the matter with the radiation, it's not completely unheard of that
yeah,
radiation can completely alter a
Yeah.
normal rabbit and give it an extra leg. Now people think it's a werewolf rabbit or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be, but
Yeah.
it's definitely linked.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is that scientists don't get funding that well. So if you want them to study, you have to give them a whole bunch of money, and they'll do it for you.
Mm.
But yeah, the funding for that kind of research is like down the tubes because it's not going to wow anybody, right?
Yeah.
No, not
It's not
here.
mainstream
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really sad because there's a lot of things that happened here due to we have stones that are hanging in the midair, and there's no rhyme or reason why, and they're saying that the aliens from outer space created the stone that made it hang from out of midair, and it's
Mm.
still around even to this day. But then you have a lot of people saying, uh, scientists say, "Oh no, 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 no! That there's a wire hanging of it. There's no wire. Okay, it's just there like that." And,
Mm.
everyone has a different opinion, so everyone clashes with each other, and so there's no answer to it at all. Period. Okay, it's just big question mark, and they leave it as that. So they're always fighting with each other on that side, and you have people who believe in the paranormal and an alien that, yeah, man couldn't do that up by himself. That has to be work of something else from outside the country. And yeah, it's like rubbing your cheeks with sandpaper, right?
Mm.
That's what it is. And um there's a lot of things in the sky in this country. Um, it happens every so often. The majority when it happens is when we get an earthquake, a really bad one. We get really bad earthquakes.
I've heard that link before. Actually, one thing I want to mention that you mentioned as well, Irene, is science is one day. I will put. I'm not a very rich man, but I will put money down to say that one day
Mhm.
science will be able to prove the existence of the paranormal,
Yeah,
of cryptozoology, if
yeah,
there's just enough research.
yeah,
So I completely agree. Unfortunately, science it goes with mainstream. I
yeah.
mean, take AI for example. I'm an IT, so I'm a developer as well. So we work a lot with AI at the moment because it's such a hit with social groups. They immediately pushed in more funds into that research.
Hmm.
So you take away funding from crops, you take away funding from animal life, from geology, from history, from all of that. You push this
Yeah,
into now AI for character design,
yeah,
um, and it completely snowballs from there. Uh,
yeah.
One thing I actually read, strangely enough, I actually have to bring it up. I think it was in Japan. I saw it today, where they used AI. And I would love to get your opinion on this. They used artificial intelligence combined with virtual technology to bring back a loved one. So this article was more specifically. I'm going to quickly try and look for it as well. But it was a woman who lost her daughter on the age of 6 years old due to leukemia, and she had this experience where they worked with her voluntarily, of course, to recreate her daughter, and she has to see that every single time she puts on that virtual reality. So is that something that you guys would actually do? I mean, do you really want to bring that
I
spirit
don't.
into
I don't.
physical realm?
I don't. Another aspect of AI is what they're doing. It's if you get sick, if you have damaged, um, uh, like kidneys or intestines or anything like, they're working on a heart now. You can get an ear. You can get a man-made ear now. You can get a man-made intestines now. You can get all kinds of different organs now that are made in
Mm,
labs. And AI is also working with people who had car accidents who can't walk anymore, who are in a wheelchair. So they're working with patients who want to learn how to walk again. They're mostly in the
sure.
medical field. Okay,
Yeah.
a lot of it's in the medical field. Um, the other part is I'm not
Heard this.
familiar with it, but if it's there, it's got to be there. And I haven't worked with, I've studied, I haven't researched it yet. But there are places in northern Japan where you can talk to your dead relatives through a, a priestess who is also a medium, and you
Mhm.
can do that there too. And it's just a lot of weird stuff happens in this country, right? So I'm not really surprised. Like I'm going, okay, whatever. Like
Mm.
for me, it's like that because
Ir-
okay, that's
Irene
me.
asked me one day if I wanted to go with her. Like, would you be interested in if we walked up that waterfall and walked up to that temple to talk to their dead relatives? I looked at her. I'm like, how is that different from your everyday life?
Yeah,
Like, we'll just chill at your house. The same thing, Irene.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Because
it
yeah,
must be amazing. I mean, guys, for me, the experience that I have, that I think most of our groups have, and all of the other groups in SA have as well, is we're much more of physical evidence. We struggle, and the people that do feel them, uh, I must admit, in South Africa, you get a lot of con artists. Unfortunately, you get a lot of people, like I mentioned before, that really needs help, that really wants help,
mm-hmm.
and people that's conning them as well. So 1 out of 100 clairvoyant so-called people here is truly clairvoyant,
Mm-hmm.
and I must admit, sometimes I'm jealous. I would love to see that or experience that on that plane, only
No,
for the
you don't.
experience itself.
No, you don't.
True, but I
You know
mean,
why?
I've
No,
why?
you don't. You can't sleep. You can't go outside. You can't walk around. You can't do anything. You can't go anywhere far by yourself. And you can't stand hearing an ambulance going by because you know what's inside it. You know the person's going to live or die. You don't want to know. You don't want to have it. You
Sure.
see spirits every single day in your home. You tell them to go away, take a number. I mean, it's like you can't have my time. Even if you're sitting in the bathtub, I mean, yeah, what the heck are you doing here in my bathtub? This is my time. Leave, please, because you don't belong here. Like I need my rest time. And I'm just bombarded all the time and it just like sometimes I say, okay, I can't go outside. It's just overwhelming. And once you have the information of certain things, you have to keep it with you to the day you die. You cannot reveal it. You cannot tell anybody. It's sacred, and
Mm.
it's a heavy load on your shoulders, and
It's
you
quite a
just
burden,
don't
yeah.
wish that on anybody. I'm serious, and that's when people say, "Gee, I wish I could see that. I wish I could understand it." No, you don't.
So
Mm.
usually I feel energy. There has been times where I have actually seen the spirits.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them, as Irene will also tell you, they're not always pretty. Like sometimes when you see the spirit, it's how they died. That's
Mm-hmm.
definitely it's not something you can't help them.
No.
Obviously, from like when they die from like an accident or
Mm-hmm.
in
Or if they
battle.
burn to death or
Yeah,
something like that.
and
Yeah.
it's hard to see that. You
Yeah.
can't physically help them.
Mm.
No.
If I can ask, everyone normally, everyone that's got to do with the paranormal or in the spiritual field or anything like that, they had an experience that brought them there. My experience personally was when I was in high school. I saw someone. Making a long story short, I saw someone in one of our back rooms, and because the topic was very taboo, I never really talked about it. Up until the day where I just randomly explained to my parents, "Listen, this is who I saw." I gave them a description of the person, and I found out that it was literally the person that passed away in the house before we moved in.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my introduction to the paranormal. I wanted to know more. After I saw that and I experienced that, I really wanted to do more. So if I can ask you guys, Mando, what brought you into the paranormal?
It's just growing up. So I grew up in a haunted house, but I was also in a very religious household that no one really believed in it. When I say religious, I was a Baptist minister's daughter. So also the paranormal wasn't
Sure.
really looked into. So unfortunately, when you are in a haunted house and it's being ignored, or it's one of those things where no one really believes in them, I wish I could go back and help my younger self because now I know how to deal with them. Back then, it was the scariest thing in the world. But now,
Mm.
you also don't know where to turn to for help in that situation. So eventually, when I got older, I still had the gift of being able to like feel the energy of exactly where a spirit is, if it's good or bad, that kind of thing. Like I could just kind of tell. And I could also had a gift where I could also sometimes hear them.
Mhm.
Mm. Wow.
So yeah, so I would have that gift going. So that also got me more into the paranormal because I tried to ignore it for the longest time, but after a while, the spirits say, "No, we know you have a gift. We know you know
Mhm.
I'm here."
So it's almost a thing of once you see them, they see you.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the theory is what I've heard from several people is people who's gifted like that auras are brighter, so they're kind of like it's a moth to the flame where they're attracted to it.
I've never actually thought of that. That's a great description of seeing it. That's a question I've asked a couple of people, and I think that's the best explanation I've heard so far about the fact that you've got a different aura where they can see it. Because the question is always why you? Why do they go to you? That's normally
Yeah.
why I ask what I ask all these people. Irene, yourself as well. What brought you into paranormal?
um.
Except for seeing them and hearing them and
I was
feeling
like,
them.
they won't leave her alone, so it found her.
Yeah, they found me. I lived in a haunted condo for 20 years. I mean, I got possessed twice, but I don't know what it was. I kept on telling my son, my eldest, to like blank off. He said, "That's not you." I said, and I don't swear like that at all. He said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Ha ha 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 ha! I got you. Yeah, you stupid blank blank blank." I said, kind of stuff like that to my son. My son said, "Oh, this is not right. You're being taken over by something." And then afterwards, he had to help me get rid of it. And then when I got rid of it, I said, "What the heck happened?" And he goes, "You don't know?" I said, I don't know what happened."
Holy
And then
crap.
yeah, and then I got into trouble again where it came over me again, and I started saying all kinds of nasty words. I mean, real nasty words came out of my mouth. I don't know what it was. My son had to help me again, and then and he said, this is pretty bad. And I said, yeah, I know. And I said to my son, well, you know what? You're telling me to kill myself. He goes, who's telling you? I don't know. I'm hearing those voices to kill myself. And he goes,
Wow.
what? And I said, yeah. He goes, uh-oh, you're in trouble. I said, dang.
Oh,
And I said,
so.
I gotta turn this off. So I turned it off, and they said, we know you can hear me. You know you can hear me. I know you can hear me. So quit playing. I said, no, I can't hear you. I said, no, I can't hear you. I did that for the last 3 years, and then we moved up, and that's when everything all came in full circle. Where now
Mm.
I'm working with clients. I'm helping them talk to their loved ones who had passed away, and so we can create some kind of closure with them. So that's what I do in my spare time. It's pretty busy, and I do cold cases sometimes too. And yeah, that's pretty nasty too. Like, yeah, you don't
The
want to know
problem with
what I see.
cold cases is she can't
Yeah,
go to the police with what she knows.
no,
It's not.
no, I don't have to
I
go
was
there. I
about
just
to
go
ask
there.
about that.
Yeah,
So
I
you
just
can't go
go
to the
there.
police with it.
you
I
can't
just
because
go
it's one of
there.
those you
I
can't
know
explain how you know.
who. I know the description of who did it. I know what he wear. I know what his face expression was, and I know what color his hair is. Right,
Sure.
and I know.
You see, I think. I think that's also a big difference. I mean, I go out. We our group. I mean, we started the group to specifically go out to find proof of the paranormal.
Mhm.
Mm.
In the beginning, I mean, to 15, 20 years ago, I would have said, yeah, we went out for proof of the paranormal so that we can convince the non-believers. Today, I really don't care. Either you believe or you don't.
Mhm.
Right.
And if you don't believe, you up until you have out of this world experience, then you
Mhm.
won't believe. But for me, I go out to look for the paranormal. I mean, for you guys, it's always just there.
Yeah.
Um, so as far as I can hear, it never switches off.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't switch off. And the hard thing is that I I do a lot of children who were killed, murdered. I do a lot of children who died accidentally. Uh that's my field. That's what I do, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate it doing it.
Especially with kids. I must admit. I mean, I've got two daughters.
Yeah.
One's 7 and one's 13, and it's always a touchy point. I actually, at a stage in my life, I stopped investigating. I took a break because it was starting to affect, rather not affect my kids, but stuff started happening in the house every
Yeah.
single time after investigation. That's what I mentioned before as well, where um, hi Rita, where after the investigation we came back and we had a specific bookshelf and
Mm-hmm.
books started just flying off the shelf. I mean, when I say fly, I mean I'm literally just, it's like someone ripping it off the shelf in the hallway.
Mm.
And that's where I realized, and I said, okay, you know what, stop. It's affecting my kids, um, and we can't go further with it. It's amazing you talk about kids as well. There's a case here in South Africa that's very popular in our news cycles, because I think it's just something that happened. This little girl in Cape Town. So I'm in Pretoria. It's more of the top part of South Africa, but in Cape Town there's a local municipality called Saldanha Bay, and there's a little girl, Jocelyn Smith, that disappeared. And later, the court case is still ongoing, but they haven't found any traces of her. And it came out that the mother and the father sold her to a so-called sangoma, which is a traditional witch doctor here for Muti. So they would use the body parts, especially what made this child unique was in a community of mostly colored people. She had pure white skin. So she stood out, and they used her and they sold her for 20,000 rand. That can't even buy you a car. That your parents would sell you for 20,000 rand. And she's still missing. They have no idea where she is. They're running into blocked wall and blocked wall. And it's amazing in today's society where they still don't use clairvoyance, or they still don't follow leads from people coming into saying, you know what, I felt something in the spiritual realm, or I saw this, please try this. I can understand it can completely get out of hand, but I mean, it's just scary in today's day and age where you don't follow up on all those leads.
I could help you right now. She's in pieces. Her body's all in pieces now. They cut her up and they use her body parts for whatever spells or whatever. Um, yeah, and they have her head kind of like on a mantle. They keep it hidden away. So they, oh my God. And they drained her blood too, and they put it in a vial.
Yo,
Yeah, and her organs were all cut up, and they're all used for special potions that this guy used.
mm,
Ah, you're never gonna find her. You're never gonna find out anybody because no one's gonna talk to you about it. And I see her right now. She's right here in my hands. She's got my hands here. She's holding my hands here. She's telling me
sure.
that you're not gonna find anything.
No, cases like that is sensitive. I must admit, we've been locally. We've been to a couple of. We prioritize. We get a lot of people contacting us with private cases. So we've got our public cases and we've got private cases. And normally, what we do is we prioritize private cases, especially with children are involved, above everything else. It hits home. It's much more sensitive, and that's where you have to draw the line. And that's what pisses me off so much. People charge money for investigations. People that we actually get them in South Africa as well. Like I mentioned, we've got quite a couple of groups, and you get people that charge fees to go out and investigate. And for me, that's a special kind of low because, Amanda, I
That
mean,
is.
you mentioned before, you're scared. You're a child. You have no idea what's going on. You have no idea who these people are. All you want to do is you want help. That's what I did after I experienced it. Luckily, I found help in the form of Shemaine, who's, I mean, it's myself and Shemaine who's the co-founder. We're the co-founders of Phoenix Paranormal. I found a like-minded person who thought the way I do, and who wanted to know more as well. And we founded Phoenix Paranormal, and up until today, we do not charge a cent. We make no revenue out of investigation whatsoever. Um,
Uh,
it's a
I'll
special
message
kind
you
of low.
afterwards because I got way more information from it. I'll tell you afterwards. I don't want to talk about it on the podcast. No thanks. It's just
Yeah,
too
that's why I actually
disturbing.
tried to change the topic. Sorry about that, Irene.
Yeah,
I didn't know you were that sensitive about topics, or anything like that. But I'll appreciate if you can send me some information afterwards, but we'll chat afterwards as well.
yeah. In
Never
fact,
understood.
I just sent her so that she can be in peace now because she was wondering. She came to me and she told me what happened to her, and yeah, I'll tell you afterwards. I'm not going to tell you here. No thanks. This is
Mm.
this is going to be a PG-18 if we did that right. Uh, it's going to be R-rated if
Welcome,
we did that. Yeah,
welcome to South Africa. Unfortunately, everything here is PG-18 rated.
yeah,
It's a lot of the places we investigate is quite Wild West. You've got to worry more about the physical harm than the spiritual harm, in some of the locations.
See, when I grew up and when I finally started learning about the paranormal, I always thought it was like the unwritten rule in the paranormal that if you're in a team or you investigate, you're not supposed to charge. Then
yeah.
all of a sudden later on, I'm learning people out there charging. I'm like, but why? It is supposed to be something that you're not supposed to be charging for.
Yeah.
It's not
I,
like a 9 to 5 job that you should be charging anyways.
I can understand it absolutely to a degree.
Hmm.
We're running into problems here right now in South Africa. We've got so many places, we've got so many locations, but unfortunately, due to Hollywood and popular mainstream TV channels, they started charging fees. So you
Hmm.
get like the small museum, the small historical museum, or it was maybe a field hospital in the Boer
Hmm.
War, um, that all of a sudden, because they see online or they see overseas, listen, we can make money out of this. It's a
Yeah.
niche topic. It's a dark tourism type of topic. Now they're starting to charge, um, a fee to investigate. They're calling it normal filming fee. So locations
Hmm.
we've been to, how many times in Pretoria, all of a sudden, I have to try and give it in perspective. All of a sudden, they're charging an hourly rate. If I would have let's take Maura's house, for example, here in Pretoria. If I would have had to go there right now to investigate throughout a normal, let's say, 6, 7 hour period, that's not even long for investigations. It would have costed me more than my monthly salary to pay that.
Yeah.
So they take this bar, they up the bar so that only these big production companies can afford it, especially over, US, companies that pays in dollars, and it doesn't make it affordable anymore. So there's no more locations you can go to.
Okay.
And so I can understand to a degree why they're charging. What a lot of people right now, what we're doing is, they're doing almost like a ghost tour. So they're trying to combine the ghost tour with to make a deal with the museum to say that if we get people on the ghost tour, they pay a fee to the museum. Can we go investigate? Um, but it's one hand feeds the other, and it's difficult because as soon as you make it about the money, people want that. They want that drama. They want to know, oh, it was a murder. I can see the spirit. He was a violent spirit, and they're scared. And everyone's there for the thrill and not the actual investigation anymore.
Yeah, that's where I
That's
draw
one
the line.
thing. That's one thing we started doing as well. I mean, because we've been doing it, I'll admit, I'll be the first one to admit, in the beginning it was a thrill. So when we
Yeah,
started out, it's a thrill. You need answers. You saw something that you couldn't explain. You go
yeah,
into it. You get this adrenaline rush out of this ghost hunt, and that keeps happening, and eventually it morphed. It changed into something where instead of we're chasing spirits and chasing ghost hunting, if I can explain it like that,
mm,
we're much more into cultural preservation right now. We're trying to preserve the history about these places. We go out, we find the local legends, find the lore, and we just try to document it, trying to remember stuff that people are going to forget because
yeah,
ChatGPT does not know about this historical place
yeah.
yet.
I get that. Um, I don't charge anything either. Mine is all free. Um, uh, all I ask is you be honest with me.
Yeah.
That's all I want. And if I make the time for you, you better be there, square. Um, and I just that's all I want. And if you played
Mm,
the Ouija board, please tell me that you did that because I had a couple that did, and they lied, and I couldn't get rid of it. And I reached out to other people, and other people couldn't get rid of it. Well, you know what happened, right? The house burnt down, and I think they burnt their own house down because they couldn't get rid of whatever was in it, and so blah blah blah. The end, right? And then my work's done. But yeah, please be honest what you do. I mean, don't lie to me because
mm,
I don't know how to approach what was there. I don't know how to get rid of it. If I need help, I need help. I'll ask
mm.
my other clairvoyants, I'll ask other groups to help me. But I'm going to go out my way to ask other people to help me. You better be honest with me. Because if you're not, I'm going to dump you like a hot potato.
Think
I
of
can
it.
understand that. Because, sorry, man, go ahead.
Think of it as if you're talking to your doctor. If you're not completely honest with your doctor about everything,
Yeah.
you may not get the right,
Diagnosis
Mm,
diagnosis.
or
Same
medicine.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won't give you the right medicine, and it won't be cured.
Yeah.
You still
mm.
have the same issues.
Yeah.
Same thing with same thing with that. Is if you don't completely tell us, we can't properly go in there and
Yeah.
know what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to confirm as well. Even if you think about it from a logical perspective, that I come from, if just someone just comes to you and tells you, listen, I've got a problem, you need to understand the problem better to focus on that problem. Otherwise, it's just shooting blind. You have no idea where to start with the problem, and it's
Yeah.
just going to become more complicated. So, the
Yeah.
more information they give you, what we do with investigation techniques, though, is it's either myself or Shemaine. It's normally the leader of the investigative group that knows the entire history and the claims of the location.
Yeah.
And we don't specifically tell that to the investigators going because you just want to emphasize the evidence. If I know, for example, there's a girl called Amanda haunting this place,
Yeah.
and my investigators don't know it, and they come up with and say, listen, we got this evidence of someone called Amanda, then it
Yeah.
makes that evidence much more sustainable and much more accurate rather than saying from the beginning, listen, there's a girl called apparently Amanda haunting
Yeah.
this place. Amanda, why are you haunting this place? Why
Um,
are you haunting this channel?
I don't
Th-
want to tell me what's there. I just want to go in blind, because if I go in blind, I can deal with what I can deal, and I can see what I can see. I don't want information. I don't want any DBs. I don't want anything. Don't show me nothing. And I'll go in there and I'll see what I can get, and I'll see if I can tell you whatever. That's the way that I like going in, because anything else would interrupt what I'm seeing if it's in my head.
Mm.
And people say, you're nuts, because if you don't go in blind, you don't, aren't you afraid? I go, why should I be afraid of it, right? It's all, they're dead, like,
Fear the living, not the dead.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We've
But it
got
might,
we've got actually one thing I wanted to mention to you guys is, I mean, we're talking about different cultures, different a melting pot. A lot of the African cultures in South Africa and Africa in general believe they're quite verbal with their belief in the afterlife and verbal with their belief in spiritual realm. For example, I think everyone knows Nelson Mandela. I
yeah,
mean, famous South African president Nelson Mandela brought democracy to South Africa. So when he passed away, they actually had to go as far, and please, any South Africans watch me, don't quote me on my history. I'm very wide right now, but they had to take a special kind of branch or stick, even take it where he passed on, and they had to physically take that, not just fly, but physically travel with that branch right through to his hometown where he was going to be buried, because of the belief that you need to pick up the spirit where they left off. They don't know the way home, and you almost guide them right through. Whereas English cultures, Afrikaans cultures, if you die, you die. That's what happens. Your spirit goes maybe to wherever it goes. Um, Another question. You see, I'm just throwing stuff randomly here.
yeah.
Afterlife.
Um,
What's your belief in the afterlife?
you're if you're unhappy with your life now, you have permission to die, take your own life, and be reincarnated, be happier in the next life. Um, it's not a Christian thinking, right? Because 90% of these people are Buddhists, right? So yeah, I mean, but then again, we put our pets to sleep. Uh, there are some assisted dying places that you can do if you're have terminal cancer. You're full aware of who you are. You can pass away peacefully. So I mean, where the hypocrisy with that, right? So it's it's like putting yourself, saying that yes, I'm not happy with my life. Yes, I'm in. It's torturous. So I believe that I should be able to finish this life and start a new life.
Hmm.
And it's throughout this country, okay? Buddhist monks used to go in a cave and drink nothing but this poisonous bark from this tree to make themselves a mummy. If they become a mummy, then they have extra power to their lives, right? And of course, it's against the law now. The police department will come after you, right? Come after the Buddhist temple for doing that. But yeah, um, it was an in thing to be that way, right? And here, I mean, after COVID, everything went like business went collapsed, and people started jumping in front of trains, in front of commuter trains, in front of bullet trains. Like, well, there's nothing left to do anyways when you do that, because the bullet train runs pretty fast and it runs on magnetic energy. So yeah, there's a lot of that on this side of Japan, and there's a lot of really scary things that happened here. Okay, so you can't go out and buy property, okay, unless you have a clairvoyant with you. I couldn't buy this house unless my son was with me. I said, which house do I buy? He goes, buy this one. I go, okay, we bought this one because it was clean. The soil was
Hmm.
clean and the house was clean. Yeah, but otherwise, he said, no, not this one, not that one, not that one, not that one, not that one. And
Wow.
that's it was something there, because you gotta remember, this is a small country, okay? And there are people who have died by their own hands. There are people who have died in the war. There are people who have died committing suicide with a sword long time ago, right? So you got that energy.
That
And
was, if I correct me if I'm wrong, the old samurai thing, where you, I can't remember the term now, where you would kill
seppuku,
yourself rather than
it's called seppuku in Japanese. So you got,
seppuku. Seppuku.
and they're all over the land, so you don't you don't know, where do I move to, right? I want to buy a house. Where do I buy a house? Get a clairvoyant. Have me help you buy a house. If it's clean, you buy it. If it's not, you Dutch it, right? So yeah, that's how bad it is in this country. Because I wanted to buy a particular piece of land and build a house on that. And my son said, "You what?" I go, "Yeah, here." He goes, "You got to be kidding." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because I see the hand coming out of the earth." And he said, "This person was killed in this land." And I said, "No, really?" He goes, "Yeah." But it wants me to buy this land. Like, I gotta buy it, but gotta buy it. I end up getting to real big fight with my whole family. And then finally my son said, "Okay, calm down." And he told me what happened. I said, "Okay, I won't buy it." But I mean,
Makes me think of The Grudge.
yeah, it was possessing me that I had to buy it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and I couldn't understand why, but yeah, I wanted that piece of land, and I
Amanda, same question
Irene,
to you. Afterlife?
Irene said something earlier that reminded me of a case back in the United States. It's still controversial to this day. Jack Kevorkian, he was nicknamed Dr. Death. Basically, I think it was mostly in his 70s. So what he did is he was a doctor, and he helps people helps people if they wanted to end their life. He assisted. He made a couple of machines that you press a button, you either fell asleep by a chemical or a gas, so it's not
Mm.
painful for you. However, the only cases he took were if you had to prove that you were diagnosed by another doctor with a sickness or a disease that's going to take your mind or your health, where you're going to start suffering from then on, or you're going to watch yourself deteriorate, something like that, where you know you're not going to live like your best life.
yeah,
So
Mm.
it's just like she was saying with animals, and that's also one of the points they made is if an animal was going to start suffering, you'd put it down so it didn't have to suffer. So they said, why are we treating animals better than we are humans?
yeah,
Like, I understand you
Mm.
want your relative to live longer, but if they're just like, I know
Suffering.
I'm gonna suffer.
Mm.
And that's why it's so controversial because people are like, well, that's still you're still taking you still help them take their life. He's like, you have to be able to show that you had some kind of sickness. You can't just go and be like, I don't want to live anymore.
yeah,
That's not acceptable. You had to prove you had something where you're just gonna go downhill
yeah,
and
I
you
can
don't want
imagine, because otherwise they would see it as murder. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even want to imagine all the licensing and everything you had to get into place to legally kill someone. I mean, there's no better word for it. But
yeah,
so I can imagine that you have to make sure, and you have to ensure that um, any case you take on, that you follow the legal routes.
hmm
Otherwise, you're going to get into big trouble, excluding the fact that need to live with that on your conscience, on your soul.
He built
that's
Um,
a he built some machines that all they had to do was push the button. He didn't push the button. He allowed them to where they could peacefully go to sleep. Like I said, you have to have some valid reason, like your mind's about to be going or your health is going to deteriorate, where you're not going to be living a good healthy life.
I mean, that's all debate of the chicken or the egg. I mean, are you mad at the person who pulled the trigger, or are you mad at the person who pulled the weapon? Um, it's either or. At the end of the day, it's your decision to pull
Yeah,
that trigger. Look, I've got a couple of friends that it ironically enough, we're getting back to the whole topic of Dr. Death and suicides and all of that, which brings me back to the suicide forest. I mean, as a dark tourism fan, I would love to see that, but I don't even want to imagine the sorrow behind it,
Yeah.
because I mean,
take you.
I've got a
I'll
couple of
take.
friends that's linked to suicide and suicidal, and
I'll take you.
it takes
I'll.
a lot of inner strength to actually go through with something like that. I mean, they normally say, yeah, people who commit suicide are weak and all of that, but imagine the self control you need to have to actually make that active decision to say, I'm ending it.
A lot of people have already thought what they're gonna do, and they do it. They don't have any second questions about it. They know what they're gonna do, and they're gonna do it, and that's it. They already committed themselves to do it. Um, it's just something that you got to understand. This country, it's a little bit different than everybody else. Okay, they think a little bit different. Um,
Mm.
uh, they're really religious in a certain way, not in a Christian way, but in a Buddhist way. So, you got to be at peace with yourself in a certain way to be able to do that, right? And to take yourself out.
Yeah.
And
Um, it's a scary thought. I mean, I'll be man enough, I'll be honest enough, human enough, rather, to admit, you know what, I tried to commit suicide once, divine intervention or whatever the case may be, but it didn't happen.
yeah,
And it's 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 literally a thing of just like that. And
yeah,
we had that thought of, you know what, do it, versus, oh my soul, what did I just try to do? Or what did I just do?
yeah. I agree.
Uh, Sure, it's a difficult conversation, but getting into the suicide forest. I mean, please, as locals, I mean, I would rather hear it from your voices than anything you can read online. You can only read so much online, but the suicide forest itself. What? How can I phrase my question? What enticed people to go there in the first place? To make this place so notorious for suicide. I mean, even here in South Africa, yes, you would normally get like a bridge, which is easy death. Don't get me wrong. I'm not associating the way method of doing it versus the actual place. We get a couple of bridges here that's famous for suicides because of the fact that they know that that bridge is high enough. If I jump here, I'm not going to be paralyzed. I'm going to pass away, versus a place like the Suicide Forest, and it probably has another name. I truly apologize for that, but people just go there to end it. Is it more of the place being haunted and pulling people in, or is it just
I
of
personally,
everyone going there?
I personally think, and I haven't been in this part. I haven't been in this forest, especially in that part, to really feel it, to really know for sure. But I personally feel like there has to be like a portal there that's open or something. Like I'm not sure if someone went there and they opened a portal or did a ritual or did something. And the reason why I say this is something draws you to that part of the forest. That part of the forest is different from than the other parts of the forest. Like the you only hear about that part of the forest, and Irene can tell you like things trees can grow in weird directions. They can like turn and swerve, and even scientists are like, I can't explain why these trees over here are not growing straight. They're just you see pictures of them literally just all over the place turning. There you don't see animals, you don't even see snakes, you don't hear birds. But then there's another part of that same forest where people have actually I've seen videos of because people are like you have to see this part. It's the complete opposite.
Hmm.
or it's
Mm,
peaceful.
mm.
People go and hike there every day because they're
Hmm.
like, it's so serene, it's so beautiful. You feel at peace on this part of the forest. So there's like a part of the forest where they know you cross here, that's not the good part of the forest. And then over here is a nice peaceful area. So that's why there has to be something over there drawing it to that part. I don't exactly know what it is. No one's actually gone in there to find out further. But it's just it's almost like
I love what you just said. I really love what you just said. Sorry for interrupting you, Amanda, because
that's fine.
that's the thing of guilty with association. If you think about the suicide forest, immediately, I mean, I did the mistake there. I called it the suicide forest.
Yeah.
That's what
It's not the
yeah.
tranquil forest. It's not the beautiful forest. It's known as the suicide forest because people just
The
like
bigger
gruesome stuff.
reputation
But
of it.
Yeah.
exactly. But there is a side to everything in life that is stunning, that is beautiful. I mean, even here, I have to take association here as well. We've got literally one street, Mansfield Avenue, that separates upper class from lower class. I mean, we're not talking about a general slope. We're talking about boom, boom,
Hmm.
just like that. And it's the same thing that it sounds. Let's start with that. Irene, what's the proper name of the forest? Or is it
What's the name of that forest?
Aokihara Mori. Aokihara.
That's why I let her say it.
Aokihara?
It's not easy.
Mhm.
Aokihara.
Yeah. There's another part to that. Is they got 5 lakes near there. They're all dead. There's no. The trees have no leaves on it. The water is black. It's just I've been there. I've seen it. It's creepy as hell. I mean, yeah, it's another part of hell on earth. Okay, but that area is all under Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is a active, okay. It
Yeah.
it spews whatever. There's lava in it. So you're talking about there's a charge right there. There's an active volcano which gives it energy to the forest, right? You got the dead lakes, 5 lakes that have energy because that's a body of water. That brings energy to the forest, okay? Scientists have
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it's amazing.
scientists have climbed Mount Fuji because they have to go into the volcano to measure the the lava um and the earthquake element inside
Yeah.
Mount Fuji. So they measure that. When they climbed it, and some of them died climbing the mountain. Some of them died going down the mountain. So it's nuts. That's also haunted too, right? So, my mother has told me that. So she said that that whole area is just charged with energy.
I can imagine, especially if you've got, excluding the fact that, I mean, you can't talk about the paranormal or supernatural if you don't talk about magnetic fields. I mean, that's a whole
Yeah,
rub of the electromagnetic spectrum. I mean, now
right.
you've got a main fault line that
Mm-hmm.
has much more to do with the magnetic field of the planet. The ley
Mm-hmm.
lines, for example,
Mm-hmm.
best way to explain it to people is it's a magnetic field. It's where the magnetic field is the strongest,
Mm-hmm.
and it follows a natural, almost tree-like progression throughout the country. So I can imagine it's a very charged place.
Yeah,
Um,
it
Bringing
is.
it just on a lighter side, we talked about earlier about Hiroshima and all of that. We're talking about millions of people who passed away.
Yeah.
God, you guys being clairvoyant, isn't it a bit crowded? That's a joke I heard the other day as well. How crowded is it in the afterlife, seeing everyone around us? Because we're talking about millions and millions of people. And it's normally, if you take about the case studies, they always
Mm.
talk about the lady in white, the lady in gray, the lady in black. It's never about Britney Spears just popped up, or I've got a new pop star age clothing and all of that. It's always this vintage type of
Yeah.
entities that we normally see.
I've told Amanda another place is It's like the suicide forest, but it's a suicide waterfall. I've told her about it. Nobody knows about it. I know about it. It's called Keon Taki. It's called the name. Keon is the name, and Taki is the waterfall. When Japan lost the war, a lot of people wanted to die. So they climbed the waterfall and they jumped and they killed themselves. And
Wow.
right, I got a whole bunch on my phone. I can share them with anybody if you want me to. I mean, you could just, if you look at it, the waterfall, it's beautiful. If you take a still photograph, you could see the images of the people climbing the rocks and jumping off the waterfall. It has to be a still picture. I think it's residual energy. I mean, kids who go to school, they all have field trips. So they all take a picture of the waterfall. I said, "You're kidding, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." My son brought this picture of me. I went like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he goes, "Yeah." And that's why I didn't like standing there, and I could see his face. He was doing this because he could feel it. He could feel the energy behind him. He was doing ooh, like this, and I could see it. I said, "Man, you made an icky face." He goes, "Well, look behind you." I go, "Okay, look behind me." I go, "You're kidding." He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Holy cow." I saw this old man, this old lady climbing the rocks and jumping.
Yo,
Yo. And
that 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 must be bad. We had a
and
similar
and
in
we
the Boer. Hmm?
gotta go. And she goes, "Yeah, we'll go." And I said, "Yeah, it's all in the northern part of Japan. It's kind of like funny. It's on the way to Mount Fuji." Like,
It's
oh,
it,
why? But yeah, it's the most
it's strange enough what you mean. What you mentioned now is so true. It's always these strange occurrences that happen. If you take, you mentioned now the northern Japan where all of these things happen, and if I really have to think about it and admit, even all our legends, it forms a natural path. I mean, we've got this massive, we call it the Karua,
yeah,
this massive piece of open, flat, desert type land. Nothing comes out there. There's no stories. There's no legends. There's nothing. There are people living there, but there's nothing. It's only the main parts of the country where they actually arrived in Cape Town and they immigrated inland up through from KwaZulu-Natal right through to Pretoria and Joburg, where you get all these stories. So it just adds a bit of fuel to the stories to take that natural progression of
mm,
people following the legends.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of. I'm wondering, a medicine. I want to go and I want to do a study of how would they react to me being an American, wha- and these people who are killing themselves because they lost the war, because
Mhm.
Japan lost the war. How would they react to her? That's different to how they react to me, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's it's kind of interesting. And I had a friend what I did a podcast when I went to Hiroshima, and I talked to an American spirit um who was giving out blankets and food to the people who got hurt during the war, and all of a sudden he was killed because the atomic bomb killed him, and it freaked him out and it hurt
Mm.
him so hard. He could feel his heart was so heavy, and it was something that he said, "I'm sorry that this happened to you." And I lost the podcast 3 times. My phone went and I couldn't get back in.
Oh,
So tell me about it, right? I mean, the energy around that area is so it makes your heart go heavy, right?
yeah. I
And
mean, just thinking about the history of it, what that's what gets me all the time. If you
yeah,
stand on a place and you go to these locations, imagine how amazing it would be just to. I'm not talking about spiritualists necessarily, but just seeing how it was way back when. If you
yeah,
can have a flashback at that moment to see, oh, muscle, there was nothing here. These people came through. This happened. It's that significance build-up of the history that happened at the location. If those walls could talk, what could it not tell you?
You know what? The picture that I got from the Google that shows that place as a place to visit, historical place to visit. That picture's all haunted. The pictures that I got from the Google is all haunted. Like you could see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could see all the spirits in that picture. Seriously, I'll share it with you after the thing.
Yeah, please send it through to me.
Like you go, and I said, okay, blow it up, increase the picture, blow it up, look at the picture. He goes, and my friend said, holy cow, you're right, it is haunted. I go, you bet it is. I said, and he goes, yeah, I said, look in the trees on the right hand side. He goes, you're kidding. I go, yep, the whole area is just really haunted. I didn't go to any of the museums. I didn't do the podcast with the museum. The building itself was one particular place where you could see it with your own eyes, and yet it was freaky. It gives you chills. I mean, at nighttime you could hear people screaming. You're screaming from that.
We've got one of those locations as well where you can hear this. There's one called Gobse Whip, Devil's Triangle, as was the old name as well, where you could actually, the legend goes, and there's quite a couple of people who said you can actually still hear children screaming from the mountainside. Yeah. It's all in a little valley, and a lot of people died, and there was also someone who actually kidnapped and murdered children in the area. And the legend goes that you can actually hear the children screaming and yelling in the background. That's also, by the way, if people wondered, why do we investigate at night after dark? Literally, the hat's name. It's quiet. That it's so peaceful, so quiet. You've got so many sounds during the day. Traffic going past, birds singing, wind, everything just taking away your sound quality. So it's just better after hours, after dark, to just listen. Nothing, people don't listen enough. If you just stay quiet, stand back, listen, you'll hear them.
Was hard too. I had a lady came and visited me the first night we slept in that hotel in Rico. And she woke me up at 2 a.m. I go, what? I said, who are you? I said, okay, I'm gonna go back to bed. Good night. And I told my husband, how old is this hotel? He goes, I don't know. It was refurbished, okay? I said, I mean this. I said, and he goes, no, really? God. I said that to him. He goes, I didn't know that. Well, I said, I had a lady come to me the first night, and I go, you're kidding? I go, yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting that, right? I woke up at 2 a.m. I had to drink a cup of tea because I couldn't get back to bed again. Freaking out like. Once I wake up, I can't get back to bed again. Okay.
I've got the same issue. As soon as I struggle to fall asleep, I think that's why the paranormal is so suited for me. I don't sleep a lot, but except for now. If I get to 24 hours, then my battery runs out very quickly.
Freaked me out, and I go, "Oh shoot!" I was like, I was cussing because I was so darn tired, you know. And I woke up that morning. I said, "Oh, I felt like I was hit by some bricks, you know, were thrown at me." And I go, "Head on collision." I go, "Ooh."
Paranormal hangover is a real thing.
Yeah.
If you've never investigated, you don't know what I'm talking about. If you investigated, you're doing what Arno's doing right now and shaking your head. You're like, yeah, I know what you mean. I felt it. Yeah. Paranormal hangover is a real thing.
Yeah.
Ghost fever.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next day after investigation, we were trying to sleep, or you're first trying to wake up afterwards, or even like the day after, you're trying to finally catch up and sleep, and you wake up. You just have that paranormal hangover.
You're going.
And it actually goes into two. Have you ever thought about this? We were debating this the other day as well. Take ghost fever or the ghost hangover from the previous night's investigation. Are you tired because of a spirit that attached to you and was using your energy, or are you tired because you walked like 15 kilometers in one night, climbed 15 stairs ups and down, carried equipment from the car to the location, set up, investigated 24 hours, went back to the car, and still tried to drive home? So are you tired because of that, or are you tired because of the spirit? Like ghost fever is real. It really happens. You are paced the next day. We just flat out, you can't move. You don't want to. You just
I was
sleep the entire day.
that thing woke me up in the middle of the night, and I got really exhausted the next day. I was doing this on the bus because I was so exhausted. Yeah, she woke me up and she just said hi. I go, "Who are you?" Like what? Like let me sleep, please. I'm on vacation. This is my
Just give
vacation.
me, just give me some rest. You must get like a spiritual out of order sign that you can just put up and just tell them,
Yeah,
listen, I'm out
I'll
of order. I'm
call
closed
you.
for the day. Come back later.
Yeah, and, and it takes
I want to ask you guys: have you guys actually investigated? I mean, you guys are both clairvoyant by the sounds of it, but have you guys actually investigated with actual equipment to try and marry the whole clairvoyant versus physical proof?
She
I
Uh,
don't.
doesn't,
that's
but I
something
have.
we've tried, but we can't replicate it.
No, I don't use equipment. This is all I need. This, and this. That's everything that I need. If you believe me, that's fine. If you don't believe me, that's fine too. I don't.
Mm.
It's just this is what I do, and I wish I wish I had certain equipment, but sometimes I wish I didn't because it would distract me from hearing and seeing what I can see. Did you hear something?
Always happens. Every podcast.
Happens with
Now
her.
weird stuff is happening
That
in
happens
the
with
space, but
Irene. Is sometimes some podcasts she's in and out, and it's because spirits are messing with hers, and that we're so used to it.
The energy is right here. Yeah, it's a male, and he's there's a child there too. It's a little boy. Is in the room also.
I'll switch on my EVP. I'll switch on my EMF as long as he makes the equipment go off and leave me a message. That's fine.
Um,
He can visit.
he's saying to me, "Don't you have any candy in this house?"
If he looks for it, I do. I've got my daughters, and I have to hide the candy everywhere. So if he looks for it, he'll find it somewhere.
Want some? He said, "I wish you quit." Yeah, because he said, "I wish you quit hiding it because I want a piece of candy." That's what he's saying, and I can't find it. I said, "But you gotta find it yourself. You gotta look for it yourself."
See, that's one thing I'm actually adamant on. We've got this rule. Obviously, I've been with any paranormal investigator group, or for us rather, let me put it that way. We've got very strict rules in place to say that, for example, um, when you investigate, I don't care who you are, I don't care what type of evidence there is, be respectful. Number one. So always be respectful. Um, always investigate in two, because especially, I mean, like you guys mentioned before as well, is what's the purpose of the investigation? Are you there to assist someone, or are you there to gather proof of the paranormal? When we go out for proof of the paranormal, you always going to in pairs, because if someone hears a voice, you need someone else to verify that voice, or to
Yep.
verify that maybe they heard something. It's the same with, then we get to camera views, etc., etc. But one thing is adamant: you do not investigate your house. If
And
something
that was
happens,
always my rule.
Yeah, that's my rule too. That's my rule.
the best thing I'll do is I'll just ignore it. I'll just lay off the paranormal for a while, let it calm down. Um, but yeah, noises again. It's South Africa. You get noises. You get noises every single day. It's a beautiful, very active country. But one day, hopefully, you guys will experience that as well.
Um.
But Amanda, Irina, I have to
Yeah.
almost say goodnight. I'm running on fumes. I'm literally sitting here and I'm crashing the entire time.
It's
Yeah.
fine. All
It's
right,
okay.
everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a great time, so
Have
hopefully we'll
back
see everyone next
so
time.
we
Thank
can talk
you.
more. Okay.
All right. All right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.